You guys going fishing for river smallmouth and don't want to come up short? Well, I got the #1 bait for you that'll help you post up some fish. Guys, I love this bait, and it is a significant portion of the smallmouth bass diet. And I was actually curious when I was filleting a few of the smallmouth. I kind of opened up their stomach and see what I saw, and you guessed it, crayfish claws. Now, knowing what to eat is not the issue. Most of us know that smallmouth bass eat crayfish. Well, the magic comes in when you can figure out how to catch them in numbers, how to store them, how to keep them from dying, the rod, the reel, the line setup when fishing crayfish, where to hook them, what size hook to use, where to fish them at in the rivers, how to fish them, and the nuances of how smallmouth bass will hit a live crawfish and kind of what they do. It's fascinating. Hey guys, Daren Wendell here from Wendell Fishing, and guys, I just returned from a 3.5 day trip to Central PA. Don't ask me where I was. I'm not going to tell you. It's a secret. But when I was there, me and my buddy, just two of us, caught 175 smallmouth and some other river monsters on the Crawdad. So first we'll start with catching their bait. There's 3 different ways that you can do this. #1 is you can just kind of catch them by hand, and if you have a net, and then you're good to go. And so it works really well when there's 2 of you, because a lot of times these crawdads will kind of take off. They'll shoot probably 5-10 feet. So if you have a guy kind of next to you or a girl next to you, when you're kind of flipping rocks and looking for them, then they can kind of catch those runners. Now, here's the thing. How a crawfish moves is essentially they flick their tail and they move really fast backwards. So a really great way to catch them and to trick them is when you see one, and sometimes they're kind of nestled underneath the rock, kind of put your net behind them and come at them with your other hand, and when you get really close, they'll flick right into your net. Another thing is a lot of people think they flick a rock over really fast, it'll create a vacuum, and then kind of the crawdad will get caught up in it, and you can scoop your net down and grab it. I highly recommend against that. We did that a lot. It takes a lot of energy. What I would recommend is kind of doing a slow peel. Slowly peel that rock back, and sometimes you'll see 2 or 3. If you pull it really fast, it's going to be muddy, and you're just kind of guessing when you throw your net down there, and usually you don't come up with one. So this method is actually really great whenever the water is not moving very fast at all. So there's some other methods if you're in an area where the water is moving fast. Now if we're talking about seining for these bad boys, this is really great in fast moving water, especially if you have 2 or 3 guys and girls. So one guy basically sits downstream with the net out, and the other 3 are upstream. They're flipping rocks, and a lot of times when you flip rocks, you get hellgrammites, you'll get crayfish kind of get caught in the water, sometimes you get mud toms, sometimes you get small water snakes, and they will basically hit that net and not be able to move. So when you pull it up, you might have a variety of live bait to use. So that's a really great way to do it as well. Another way, which is probably the least time intensive, is a crayfish trap. Now this is a minnow trap. I know that Frabill makes crayfish specific traps, but guys, this will catch them as well. But check with your local regulations, because I know in Pennsylvania they're very strict about how wide this hole can be. You might not even be able to use crayfish traps in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. I didn't have one, so I didn't look into it. But also in Pennsylvania, you have to have something attached to your trap. If you leave it unattended overnight, it's got to have your name, your address, and your phone number. So you don't want to be rolling in to get your trap the next morning and the warden kind of be around the corner and kind of catch you without having one of these. They will fine you. You got also in Pennsylvania, and once again, check out your state laws. You can only have 50 pieces of bait, so you don't want to get caught with 51 because the wardens will count. All right, so the next question is, how do you store those things all day long? And I use one of these Frabill flow trolls. These things are really nice. I basically just hooked this to a stringer, hooked the stringer to me, and it just kind of floats behind me. If you can't see it underneath there, it's weighted, so it always kind of sits like this in the water. So I just reach behind me, grab a crawdad, and I'm good to go. But keep in mind, the more crawdads you have in here, especially if you're not in the river, the more oxygen that they're going to be using, and they will die faster. Also, if you're kind of traveling from spot to spot and it's hot out, it's a hot summer day, also keep in mind, if this water heats up too much at your next stop, you might open them up and they all will be dead. So keep that in mind. It might be good to have if you're traveling long distance with them, or you're just kind of in the sun. Might want to put a few ice cubes in there, maybe buy a little aerator, and then you get those from Walmart to get some oxygen in there, so all the time you spent catching them isn't in vain. Now sometimes the crawdad's on fire, and sometimes you might not actually get through all 50 in one day, and so you can actually just leave this in a stream overnight, and you wake up and there might only be a couple dead because they fight all night long. But don't learn the hard way. If you're going to put this in a stream, make sure, once again, have your name, address, phone number on it, so you don't get caught there. But I would lock it. As you can see, you can lock it right here, but just don't do that. I stick it in the water. I put a bunch of rocks on top. If you don't, if a raccoon finds this, he's gonna break into it. He's gonna eat all your bait. My buddy had this happen to it. So I don't want to happen to you and kind of ruin your morning. You're getting ready, you got the hope of a fisherman, you get to your bait bucket, you get ready fishing, and you realize you got another hour of catching bait again because you didn't put rocks on top of this and kind of protect it from the wildlife. All right, for the crawdad, I used a spinning reel, a medium power, moderate action rod, and 8-pound fluorocarbon. My buddy he started off with some mono, and I tell you what, he was missing hook sets left and right because it's stretching too much. So that's what I liked about the fluorocarbon, give a nice strong hook set, and with the moderate action and the medium power, I mean, river smallies are an awesome fight. And so having that bend really allowed them to kind of take their runs. You know, I was picking up some big catfish as well. And so I wasn't losing them because my rod and line were acting as the shock absorbers. All right, now let's talk about how to hook the crawdads. Guys, you're gonna have to size up and size down your hook based on the size of crawdad that you have. So for those small crawdads, and man, those things are awesome. A lot of times the smaller they are, they're soft shelled, and you kind of feel it when you pick them up. Sometimes you can get some medium sized ones, you kind of feel it and they're soft. Man, smallmouth love the soft shelled crawdads. So if you come across those, and usually you don't find a lot of them unless they're molting at that time, those things are awesome bait. But I'll use a size 1 octopus hook from Gamakatsu for the small crawdads, about that big. For the medium sized crawdads, I kind of moved to a 2/0 to 3/0 extra wide gap or straight shank hook. Those worked really well. Just kind of hook it through the tail portion, usually the top of the tail, right where the tail meets the body. I would hook them through there. That had a great hookup ratio, and when I got to the really large crawdads, the big pinchers, I put a 3/0 hook, extra wide gap or straight shank on that. And man, we went through a lot of different hook combinations and really dialed it down to those 3 types of hooks for those 3 sizes of crawdads. Now, a pro tip here when you're kind of going through your crawdads, so you're not changing out your hook all the time, just work your way through all your small ones first, usually where you have the most luck anyways. And then once you work your way through your entire bait bucket, move to your medium, and then change your hook then, and move through your next 15, then you have the large ones left. So just kind of pro tip there, don't be changing out your hook all the time, kind of help you out, kind of manage your time, and really if you have more time and your line's in the water more often, you're gonna be able to catch more fish. All right, so moving on to how to fish these things, where to fish these things. The most luck, of course, you're looking, you know, if the water's down in the river, that's gonna be great because those fish are gonna be stacked up in the holes, and you're usually gonna be able to identify those holes. If you got some big rocks and right behind those in those eddies, that's where those fish are gonna be hiding. They come out to ambush. Anytime you see ripples, another great place to be able to find smallmouth. And so you can kind of see in these videos, as I'm sharing with you, you can kind of see where these bass are hitting. We had the most luck whenever I couldn't see anymore because the water is deep enough. But man, you're gonna try to find those holes. They are stacked up in there. So how to fish the crawdads, guys? Usually when we throw these in, a lot of the small ones, the smallmouth come up and hit it within the first second or two. But for the larger crawdads, what would happen, and we actually watched it because the water was so clear, is that these things would fall all the way to the bottom to the rocks. And once they got down there, they flip over and they start crawling. And once they start crawling, that's when the smallmouth bass would pick it up. Now with the larger hard shell crabs that we were using, the harder and larger they were, we wanted the smallie to kind of take off with it, and they kind of goof around with it, kind of hold it in your mouth. If you ever watch underwater footage of a smallmouth bass hitting a live crawdad, they kind of goof around with it. They kind of suck it in their mouth, they'll spit it back out, they're turning it around, they're trying to move it, trying to figure out if it's hard, super hard, if they're gonna eat it. Sometimes they spit it out and leave it alone. Sometimes they'll take off with it, go someplace else. And so a lot of times if I was fishing that large shell crab, I would let the fish run with it for 10, 15 seconds before I set the hook. And that usually provided a really good hookup ratio. So just pay attention to what type of crawdad that you're using, and it'll kind of determine your hook set. All right, let's be honest, catching crawdads takes time, and you might not have time, or you might not have identified a place yet where you can find them. That's okay, because I got another video of 6 other baits that will slay the smallies right here.